Hey everyone, this is Ian, aka Collector Emitter, and this is another episode of the podcast that I make for my Patreon. So if you're unfamiliar, this podcast I make for the Patreon and then post 2 weeks later on YouTube when I have a guest. And that's what you're watching now. So episodes where I don't have a guest are just exclusive to the podcast feed. And this episode, if you want it in your podcast app, you can do that by supporting the Patreon for as little as $1 a month. In addition to that, when I have a guest, there's also an exclusive bonus episode that goes up on the Patreon feed today, same time that the episode goes onto YouTube. So if you're interested in listening to more with my discussion with Clint from Deep Space Devices, you can head over to the Patreon. On there, you'll also get audio downloads from my videos and some other nice things. And you can always suggest things that you'd want for supporting. I'm trying to grow that to be able to do this podcast more, to be able to focus some more time and energy and money into this channel for getting gear to, up the quality of my videos, try pedals that I'd have to buy used or new things that I just need to get my hands on. So that's where that Patreon goes towards. It's all just feeding back into supporting the channel and making these extra things like the podcast happen. So if you're not interested in supporting and you just want to watch the videos, that's great too. You can also join my Discord. There's a link in the description here. And just go there to chat about gear and a lot of other stuff, music, photography, whatever. We've got a lot of great people there. But yeah, otherwise just enjoy. I think this is one of the best episodes of the podcast yet. Clint from Deep Space Devices and I had a great conversation about kind of leaning into the broken or lo-fi or glitchy sound with his pedals and matching that look with the acid etching, as well as getting into how taking a break from doing, whatever creative thing or whatever project you're working on can actually help you find more inspiration and find the right way to approach that project. So really great conversation, super excited for it. And in the bonus episode, we talk about some cool things like some stories about Clint's son doing some crazy things. We talk about the Last of Us TV show a little bit, tried to keep that spoiler free, but we talked about it a bit. And yeah, that's a good time as well. So go support the Patreon if you're interested. If not, enjoy this video. Thanks. Hey everyone, and welcome to the March episode of the Collector Emitter Patreon podcast. This month we're talking with my friend Clint from Deep Space Devices. Got him on a call with me right now, and we're going to be talking about kind of his whole design philosophy and the kind of unique approach to making pedals that he has and sort of embracing more broken sounds. Maybe we'll get into talking a bit about acid etching. So yeah, really glad to have found time to talk to Clint. And this should be a good conversation. And so yeah, hey Clint, how you doing?
Here. I'm just kidding. Like that whole intro, I was trying to think of something just so witty to say, and I couldn't. That was the first thing that came to mind.
I mean, you got me to laugh, so it worked. Yeah, so I mean, we've been talking for a bit on Discord before we actually started recording, and so you actually kind of started telling me something that was, really interesting story about, kind of the perfect way into this topic about your kind of design philosophy with Deep Space Devices. So do you want to tell me about the first Deep Space Devices pedal and why you consider it the first?
Yeah. Just don't tell anyone. Like, I'm just kidding. So what we were talking about before, like we were talking about, um, I guess the approach with pedals, like, well, with my approach with, I guess the design or what I want, like in a pedal. I think it's going to sound crazy, and I'm trying to kind of say exactly what I said before, instead of like
Right.
using a jumble bunch of words that only people that understand Southern slang would understand. But I've been like really embracing a lot of Southern like slang, and it's
Yeah.
stupid.
I like
But
that.
not
I mean, already we're off track, but I like that too. But I like that. I mean, I've been kind of embracing more Philly slang, or like leaning into that because uh, Anna, my girlfriend, she's also from Alabama, like Clint, and so she always points out, when I slip into like a Philly accent, and I never notice it, and so now it's like, oh, I might as well embrace it, and so I've been doing the same thing.
dude. I want to get y'all tattooed on my knuckles. That's how much I'm embracing it.
I think that's a great
So
idea.
yeah, I think I know someone. Well, never mind. Never mind. Let's and it's actually someone that you know, but we'll talk about that another time. But so this is going to come off a little weird the way I say it, but I consider the first deep space pedal the Trigonaut V2, and the reason behind that is when I first started in 2018 and going into 2019. I went to school for business, and before that, I used to work for the North Face, and it wasn't about like just driving like any sales or anything like that, but just like I went in the mindset like customer engagement and all that. But the pedal world is very, very different compared to any other industry I've ever worked in, and I've worked
Right.
in a few different industries, and it's incredible. It kind of stems off of what you and Alex spoke on a previous episode, but I learned this within like the first uh 2 or 3 months into doing pedals, but I was going into it thinking like I want to make something that people would enjoy rather than I say I never focused on myself, what I would enjoy getting out there.
Right.
And 2018, 2019, yeah, it was was when both me and Taylor were doing everything, and we were going to NAMM Brooklyn Stomp. That's the first time we actually met,
Yeah.
and yeah, and doing all that, and then coming around 2019, um, I think you knew this. I mean, I was starting to go a little downhill, a little bit of a I want to say depression. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. Like I was at a deep, deep low. Like it was like these weren't like pedals or devices that I wanted to make, and it was like I wasn't focused on something that what makes me enjoy doing these pedals or making these pedals. And the first Dragonaut I really did enjoy, but it wasn't what I wanted truthfully, like the version one. And then halfway through 2019, found out that me and my wife were going to have our first child, and we did not know he was going to be a goblin child. But yeah, no, he's an angel, but like he's an angel that leaves destruction behind.
Right. Yeah.
But so that was like midway through 2019, and we started I started just planning things for the future for me and my family. And during that time with Deep Space, it was a hard time. Like, there was I mean, we're getting by and stuff, but I mean it was still like the first year, like second year of Deep Space, and this is when Taylor was still involved and stuff. And come around 2020 20, the very beginning is, we had Luke, and I actually got a new, like, a career job, and it was I was doing Deep Space at full time at the time, and we had Luke in 2020 January, and I felt like um okay, I'm not trying to get too sentimental on this podcast or make a tear come out from any dad out there, but the moment, like, you have your first child, you always hear that saying, like, it's like something you've never experienced before. And
Right.
can we cuss on this? Can we
Oh, yeah,
cuss?
absolutely.
Okay. Like, number one, fuck you to all the dads out there that ever told me that. And number two, I'll go and tell you what that feeling is, because when you first see your child, because I was not prepared for that wave of emotion. It was crazy. What
Yeah.
it is, it's the first sight of unconditional love, and it's like something just. It's not just like one little switch, but every little switch in your mind just turns on, and your priorities change completely. And it's like since that day, um, I planned the next day he was born. When he was born, like, I'm going to put Deep Space on hold, and I
Right.
can't. This is gonna be my life. I want to provide for my family and spend time with the family as much as possible. And it's like that low that I was in was it was just a weird like a remedy was placed or something that just took it away, and I never thought I ever needed that, but it was like a big wake up call. And halfway through, not halfway, but April or May, pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when started working from home for a good bit. And Deep Space, it was on hold. It's kind of a hiatus, like a year off or whatever. And I had a setup here in my garage. It was kind of my workshop, and I would come in here and tinker with stuff here and there. But I really didn't do much. I would play music, and that was actually really nice. Getting back into playing music and being creative again. And around November, during this time, Taylor was really focusing on his art, and he it's not that we parted ways or anything. He just um, that's his priority, his career, his job. That's what he does now. So it's just me that does Deep Space, which it works out better because with what everything that I did with the business, like taxes and building everything, I would do everything. It just work out better if it was more commission. And it's both understanding on both sides. No, nothing ill or anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It, people ask me that all the time. It's like the stuff that you hear about, like, and Brady won't mind me saying this, like, oh, what happened with you and Walrus? Like,
Oh,
what
right.
went
Yeah.
down? Like,
Yeah.
nothing went down. He just wanted to do different things. That's it.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's like the exact same thing. But then, um, 2020 October, November, I started dabbling in. I don't know what it was, but acid rain pedals. I've always admired his stuff, and ADD audio disruption
Yeah.
pedals, like, or devices. I've always admired that stuff, like all the acid etching, and I don't know. I was thought, you know what? Fuck it. I want to try this shit out. It's and so I was looking into different ways of doing tonal transfer, and, like, this is gonna sound crazy, but the aesthetic of acid etching, I thought there was a way to do that by doing third party. No, you have to contact someone individually about that, and that's like what I've always wanted Deep Space to be. It just
Right.
kind of grungy, and but not like too crazy grungy, but just like fun and stuff. And that's what Deep Space kind of is now, or I try to make it out to be, just chill and fun. But I started getting into acid etching, and there's a lot of practice. And then I just thought, you know what, let's let's get Deep Space back going, but let's really go in what um the way that I wanted it to be since the very beginning. Because during that time of 2020, I really was focusing on myself rather than what others wanted. And I want to be honest, man, I've always been a pushover most of my life, and if anybody wants to become a dad, just going to let you know. I mean, don't go become a dad just because of this, but you grow a backbone real quick when you become a dad,
Yeah.
and it's like you don't take shit, and um, it's not that you get selfish with what you want to do. It's just you become like, I mean, if you're someone that's like myself, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. And I want people. I want, if I'm somewhere, I want to make sure everyone's having a good time. Now, yeah, I want people to have a good time, but tough shit if you're being a. I mean, just you know,
Well,
we can go outside and talk and stuff like that. But you know what I'm getting at. It's
yeah.
like I'm focusing on myself. I want to be. I want to make Deep Space what I wanted it to be since the beginning. And
Yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like I maybe went through a similar thing, and I think from talking to other people, a lot of people have maybe gone through a similar thing. But you just sort of, because of the timing of when you had had to change your life to focus around being a dad, you took a break because of that, and then it was COVID that let you get back to have a little bit of time to do pedals again. And for me, it was like I put all my time into pedals because of COVID, because I had nothing else to do. And then after, a year and a half or so, it was like, I got to slow down. I got to make less videos, and I got to, not play guitar every day. And I think it's actually helped me be more productive as a musician, and writing guitar parts and everything, by only doing it when I feel inspired to do it. And I feel like that's what kind of led you to that same kind of thing, led you to making pedals that were more what you wanted to do, because now you weren't doing it because you had to. You were doing it because you felt like making pedals, and you just felt like messing around, doing something for yourself.
yeah, yeah, you're exactly. I mean, you actually hit out of the ballpark with that. And what I'm about to say, it's it's gonna come off. I don't know if I should say it. I'm going to say it. It's going to come off bad, but it's not. I think people will understand where I'm coming from. During the pandemic, yeah, the pandemic was awful. Okay, but um, using that time, a lot of people have come out better than what they. Well, people that are actually staying safe. I'll put it that
Right.
way. People that are actually wearing masks. I'll put it that way. Came out um, better or more inspired than what they were before.
Yeah.
Than what they were before, and that's like time. There was a lot of time. A lot of people had a lot of time, and I had some time too, being at home and being with Luke and spending time with my wife and stuff. I mean, it was well, then again, the pandemic was kind of the reason why we have another kid. I mean, I guess a lot of good can come from that.
Yeah.
Now I have two kids, but um, yeah, Trigonaut V2. That's when I started redesigning the first Trigonaut to being just less is more, and
Right.
I kept on thinking that, and still had that idea of like I still want this to be usable with other people out there. And Trigonaut V2, I released it. I was happy with it, but then it's like I have a fresh start, and I can
Right.
make like the quote second pedal of
Uh huh.
end quote of Deep Space, which was Dust, and that was 100% something that I wanted to do, and it was exactly how I wanted it. And it just no volume. I mean, yeah, the trim pot, but then you have the just one knob and just 2 foot switches. And I I don't know if it was a God thing or if it was just luck or what. Uh, People liked those things.
Oh, dude,
uh,
yeah. I mean, it's on my pedal board for my one band, and every time I use that for like any they're not quite solos, but like really lead guitar parts that are supposed to jump out, and I'm like messing with the delay time with my foot and stuff, and my bandmates are like, "Holy shit!" Like that sounds so good, no matter what you're doing. And so yeah, and talking to a lot of people on Discord and stuff, it seems like everybody got excited about that, and it makes a lot of sense with your the whole story of how you got to kind of almost restarting Deep Space, because you and I had been talking about you doing a PT 2399 fuzz for like years, and so you always wanted to do it, and then once you found your way to actually do it and focus on it, it people could tell it feels real, feels like it was something you're actually passionate about.
yeah, exactly. And it really is something like I am passionate about. I'm like happy that Dust happened. I felt like Dragonaut V2 was a good, I guess, resurgence or a restart, and to what I was going to be doing, like the acid etch and everything. And but the acid etching, I think, is where the heart of it of all of these faces is, because that's what I have the most confidence in doing.
Interesting.
Um, like I'm pretty hard on myself when it comes to actually making pedals, because it's like Dust. It's not a ton of components. It's just um I mean, I don't like using the term abusing PT 2399. I think it's
Yeah.
just mangling with it or just doing whatever. But um, like Tragonaut, I felt like there was a lot of flaws at the beginning. But I mean, no, not flaws, but I mean, it's already out there. But then there's Tragonaut V2, and it's what I wanted it to be. Like a compressed fuzz with one of the switches, and then you still had the octave kind of glitchy deal, but it still be a like an overdrive or whatnot. However, the acid etching I have more confidence in doing than actual designing pedals. Like, let's say if I'm talking to someone like Alec or John
Yeah.
Snyder,
Right.
man, it's like, um, what's a good comparison? It's like, ah,
Well, I feel like
I can't even think.
I've always thought there's kind of two sides to the really good pedal builders, or circuit designers, um, for pedals. There's like the people like Alec and John who are really good at engineering, and they understand how to make things perfectly and make them like they can visualize things in their head when they're designing the circuit. And so with that, you get, something like the Longsword or Black Math, where it's this idea perfected. It sounds so good. And you could compare it to a similar pedal, but it just has this, like all the details are there. And that's the one side of, or the, one kind of a really good pedal designer. And the
I'm
other
jealous of
kind
that.
is, but I think it's interesting that you're jealous, and it makes sense because you're kind of doing the total opposite of that. But I think there's people like Death by Audio and Dwarfcraft and Devi Ever and a bunch of people who it's just like, well, let me throw things together and see what happens, and that's how you create all these kind of weird things that are unlike what anybody could imagine, maybe even what you could imagine. But it's if it like feels interesting and unique because you can't put it next to something similar and compare to find like, oh, are the details better? Because a lot of times there's nothing that sounds like it, even if it's like, oh, this is technically like a fuzz face clone, but it sounds nothing like it and it's totally weird. You can't put that next to a normal fuzz and say, well, it sounds a little bit, worse in how the chords ring out. So I guess I'll go with this other one. And so
Yeah.
I think that's why you have such unique pedals and such unique designs. And I'm curious with what you're saying about the acid etching being where you're most confident. Do you think that's where, like, do you kind of almost start with picturing what the pedal looks like and then what would that pedal sound like? How would you get there? Or do you start with an idea of, oh, I want to use a PT2399 or I want to use, whatever op amp or something like that, and then, work out from there?
So I actually go about it by trying to make. Well, before I answer that, I want to say something about what we were saying just a second ago. Like, I say that I'm jealous, but I do. I don't. Even, I wouldn't even call it a talent or anything. But like how you were saying about Death by Audio or Dwarfcraft, um, actually flattered that you brought them up because I love all their stuff and like I try to be with pedals. I try to think as much outside the box as I can, like with making something that's just you don't see out there and there's not much of out there like dust. I really don't. The only thing I can compare that to is slowly melting
Right.
and
And they're
like
totally
rust.
different.
Yeah, and it's like I want to make things different. I want them to be usable, but something that I mean now I want to be something that I know I would use and have a ton of fun with, and I know others would have fun with too. I mean, like I mean, both you and I have played a ton of pedals in our lifetime, and I mean, it's like a tube screamer. Come on, I think we're just past that, and I'm not talking bad or anything towards anybody. I promise you, but I mean, it's just the reality. If it hurts your feelings that you're working on a tube screamer, I'm sorry, but I'm just okay. Okay, we get it. But you can edit that out if you want to. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's great. And I kind of agree. I think how I would phrase that is like there's people making a lot of those things that we've already seen in such a great way that you kind of have to be bold to say, oh, I'm going to make a tube screamer or like a transparent overdrive or whatever, and actually, do something different and unique. And you see people doing that, like, like we talked about EAE and Mask Audio. And, there's a lot of people, Bondi, I feel like, will come out with a pedal that's, an overdrive, but it sounds so new and fresh, even though it's really similar to something else that's out there. But it's, yeah, it's like, kind of trying to play in a band that's like, oh, we're classic rock, but we're going to sound different than everything else. It's like there's enough out there that you got to be really confident that you're going to be good because people have already done it.
I mean, there are a few people. There are only a handful of people that I know, without a doubt, that can go about a tube screamer circuit or big muff circuit, and it's already been done with the big muff circuit. Is Alec, John, the Bondi dude? I don't know why I don't know his name.
His name's also John.
I don't know why that made me laugh, but okay. And then Demidash. Is it Dave? No, Steve. Steve.
Yeah.
And I think he's brilliant, but he really thinks outside the box too. Like with the tri course that he was showing the other day. Like, man, I mean, it's just the stuff that like there's circuits already out there and pedals, like thousands of pedals out there that are all the same circuit. I feel like them 3 or 4 could take that circuit and make it sound like something triple times better. I mean, and have its own unique character, like its own version of Tube Screamer or Big Muff. I mean, Alec has already done that with Black Math,
Right.
or Civil Math, and it's the only muff that I will ever, or muff like bass circuit that I would
Yeah.
ever want to use. But like, to go off that other question, that you asked a moment ago was, I start with the circuit and like, well, tomorrow releasing the Boom Burst kind of thing, that pedal, and by the time this is out, Boom Burst will be out too. But the way I went about that is like I knew how to go about. So there's the chips, the CMOS chips, like the 4069, 49, 50, 4040. There's tons of them. And the Rust had one of the CMOS chips, and the way I would use it, along with the LM386, which is it's one of the main chips that you see in a lot of different other pedals out there. Like that's what No uses. I think Yes uses by Mask Audio, but
Yeah, they're the same, or they're close to the same circuit. So yeah, they use all the same components, I think. But yeah, it's the same. It's based around the same chip. But so is that
okay.
like it's like an op amp that you would use for creating distortion or fuzz?
Distortion. Oh,
Or just just trying
not
to
that.
like I mean
I actually try to
myself,
use.
I don't know part,
I try to use something that's not an op amp, like the
gotcha.
PT2399.
Yeah.
When I did that with Dust, that's I mean, within the chip itself, it's once you're following the schematic and using the schematic of the chip, and then seeing how different ways using capacitors and the resistors, and having just whatever format or circuit path that you're making and everything. I mean, that's kind of, I mean, you're fucking with the chip pretty much. I mean, but with like CMOS chips, there's the 4106. You can get like, I mean, it's all like logic gates
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And I mean, it's so much that those chips can do. And like hex inverter buffers, and it's crazy stuff. And they've been around for so long, and there's a lot of pedals out there that already use them. But that's how I went about the sub-octave effects, like the filter effect and Rust. And it's I mean, I like using like transistors mainly for fuzz, like any sort of drive. But I've always enjoyed using transistors over op amps. But I really like trying to use just like chips that you wouldn't necessarily rely on overall drive or fuzz. Like with
Yeah.
this Boom Burst, I do have 2 transistors in there, a lot of diodes for the drive portion, but it's a very light drive, and I just have that there because it's for more of a boost going into the hex inverting buffer CMS effect. Well, I mean the octave effect, the pseudo random octave shifting effect. I put it that way, and I'm boosting the signal going into that, and that's, I mean, kind of how I went about making it. Is just getting those chips, the CMOS chips, and work my way around and figuring out how I wanted this pedal to be. And oh crap, I'm trying to answer the question that you just asked right then, and then going back to the question about the acid etching. But Okay, I'll give you a short answer real quick. I try to use different chips that aren't mainly op amps, unless it's like LM386 or something.
Right.
I just love that chip. But with the acid etching question, like, do I go about that first, or like the image in my mind, or go about the circuit first? I go about the circuit first, but then I mean, that's always kind of fun. I mean, just breadboard and everything, and then getting chips, designing the PCB and sending it, getting it ordered just to test them out. Now, I mean, that's always trial and error. Like, Alec can just imagine the schematic in his mind and already have the PCB design made on the computer without him even touching the mouse or keyboard. And but I mean, that's a incredible talent. But with I do all that first, and then I go about the image that I have in my mind, and like with the acid etching. Now I say acid etching is where I feel like a lot of like the heart of it all.
Right.
But the only reason I say that is because um I feel very, very confident with acid etching and using ferric chloride or sodium hydroxide or just whatever different chemicals. I like to go about it the safest route to do it because it's easier to dispose of certain chemicals,
Yeah.
and especially with children. I mean, they're not in here while I'm doing it, but I mean, what if Luke comes busting through the cat door and I'm acid etching and yeah, but I'm confident in getting a solid acid etch most of the time, and
Yeah.
that's why I like to say that's like the heart of it. But that's only because um, I guess I take pride in doing the acid etching because I feel like I'm good at it. But I'm very hard on myself. I'm like really really hard on myself. Like
I am
um,
too. It's like this, like perfection, um, like this. If you're gonna make something and put it out in the world, it's got to be the best, you know. And that's such a tough attitude to get over. Um,
dude, like I'm hard on myself about like the way I look. I mean, that's how hard I am. Oh, not anymore. I mean, that's another thing about during the pandemic. I've just learned to love myself and who I am.
yeah,
Like before that, I've had love handles my entire life. I've worn those fucking things off of me for years, and I could not get them off. And like that's how hard I was on myself before.
yeah,
It's like now it's just like I'm happy and like loving myself and actually not. I mean, not being like loving myself, being like yeah, you guys ain't shit. No, not like that. But like, or like I'm better than you or anything like that. No, not like that. Just like loving for who I am and stuff, and learning to love the hobby and whatever skill I learned along the way during the pandemic, and loving the fact that I'm actually doing a good job with it, the acid etching portion, and taking pride in that, but a healthy pride. But yeah, I just make these answers so damn long. I'm sorry.
no, this is incredible. And yeah, I think it's like it's really interesting. We're coming into this. We were like, oh, we're going to talk about kind of the embracing the broken, sort of like you said, like messing with the components as opposed to using them properly, and like how you use the acid etching. It's got like that the look that kind of matches that. It's grungy and a little messed up, and everyone's unique, but almost I feel like that connects to, like I said, something that I have also been kind of going through just in my, making music and like all my creative stuff. I mean, this because we just put out an EP of a couple songs that we worked on together, and it took me so long because I would just like stop working on a project for months and months, and not think about it. And you'd text me and be like, "Hey, do you still want to do that thing? Like these songs are done." And it's like, "Oh yeah, I do," but it's like hard um, to
It's hard to manage
focus.
time, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, manage your time and like really focus on something, and what I've learned, and what it sounds like you've learned, is like to kind of let everything that I'm working on be what it is. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's just got to be unique, and it's got to be, representative of me and what I do. And I think that's what makes your pedal stand out. And I think that's what makes, like you said, a lot of people really loved Dust. And I think that's because it is unique and it sounds cool. And you just took something that you were passionate about and made it happen, as opposed to like, well, should I add in, this feature or that feature? Because, that gets people to buy pedals, or, things like that. And so, it's like, I guess that's part of being hard on yourself, is you kind of, if you kind of work through it, you eventually get to this point where it's like, okay, I'm hard on myself, but I can get things done. And I've got that little voice in the back of my head that says like, oh, this should be better and this should be better. And sometimes I listen to it and then I make my things better. And sometimes I don't. And that's enough to say like, it's got its flaws, and it is maybe, kind of embracing, more broken or lo-fi or glitchy or, anything like that, elements of whatever the kind of, in music or in making a pedal or whatever. But it's unique, and I did it. I mean, just making a pedal is an accomplishment, let alone one that people love. So,
I do have actually a pretty important comment about this. One thing that I did learn, I think a lot of us have learned too, and I believe you have, and I think you do this because I know you play Elden Ring and all the Souls games a good bit, and I've yet to play Elden Ring. I just don't have a graphics card strong enough
oh
yet.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been procrastinating on that, but the biggest thing, I know you got caught up with a lot of stuff. With those songs, like on the backlog, that like that was something that I completely understood. Because I mean, like you're a busy guy, and I mean I was busy too a lot of the time, most of the time with the kids, and especially with my full time job too. But I think the biggest thing that I think people don't realize is that it's okay to take a break.
yeah.
And
Oh, absolutely.
I 100 billion% believe that video games are healthy, because
Yeah,
that does, I mean, like think of like writer's block or just getting burnt out. Play some video games. I swear to God, like that, that creativity really sparks real quick. Like
yeah,
for me, I was playing like during December, I did not even have Boom Burst or anything. I wasn't even working. I didn't even have I had the idea, but I didn't even start working on it until like midway through December. And I have it ready now, but it's just like that drive got kicked in because I was playing the fuck out of Dead Cells,
oh
and
yeah.
I was
I love
playing.
that game.
Yeah, and I was playing the new Pokemon a good bit too, and like just I don't know, something about Pokemon did something for me, and Dead Cells. But and I started playing a little bit of Hollow Knight again,
Oh yeah,
which that's all. I mean, I don't know, I put so many hours in that game that it's like I was really worried about restarting it, but it's just it's too late. But I mean, video games, I feel like is a good way to like take breaks and just refresh like creativity. And
yeah,
Elden Ring, I know would have probably inspired me to make like a have a reverb done by now, but no, I haven't been able to play Elden Ring. The reverb is happening, but I'm just some others are helping me out with that, which I'll tell
oh
you. I'll tell
nice.
you later. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll tell you later about that.
perfect. But yeah, I mean, I, I think I've even made an episode of this podcast about that already, but certainly not, said it in exactly those words. But yeah, I mean, I, I've always liked video games and played them since I was a kid. Because my dad was into video games and he showed me like Doom and stuff like that when I was real young. But
Your dad's cool. You know what my dad played? My dad played Need for Speed on hours on end, and I would just be like, "Dad, I want to play Guitar Hero." I was like, "No, let me beat this race." I'm like, "Okay." And it'd be like 11 o'clock, and I'll be asleep. I said, "Forget it. I just wanted to beat that Lamb of God song off of Guitar Hero or whatever." Your dad is cool for playing Doom. My dad just does Need for Speed and Tetris. Like,
well, I mean, Need for Speed and Tetris are both great games, so I can't blame him there. But yeah. So I mean, I've always liked video games, but with like having the extra time and like needing a break from things, when like we were full lockdown in 2020, I just started playing way more video games, and I was trying games that genres of games I never played before, and just became this whole separate hobby for me. And that is such a huge way of helping me, kind of be better and more focused when I'm actually sitting down to play music or work on creative things.
when trying to go about trying different genres of games, I think the Switch is at the perfect place to start because there's the store there. It's just endless, and you can
Yeah.
go about so many different genres. I mean, there's always computers. I mean, playing on PC and Xbox and all that. But I mean, the Switch. I mean, it's portable, and you have endless amount of genres. They have a game about coding, and like you create your own like Final Fantasy game, and it's just so many. I wouldn't
The
recommend
RPG
playing.
maker.
I wouldn't recommend playing it unless you actually know a little bit about coding, but because it's kind of hard. But uh, like they got Doom, the Dark Souls, and
Yeah.
Pokemon, everything. So I mean, I was just stemming off what you were saying because like if anybody was ever interested in like a genre, like checking out different genres of games, just get a Switch and you have endless options.
Yeah. And like, I mean, you could do the same thing with movies or with books or, whatever. But it's like, for me, I mean, the reason video games especially are
I can't read.
helpful for me.
Books are on my. I'm just kidding. I can read. I'm just really. That's another thing I'm hard on myself
yeah.
about. I'm such a slow reader that it's just like I'll just listen to an audiobook. And I don't have all the time in the world.
I think so many
But
people are that way now. I'm that way. I'm trying not to. I bought a bunch of books to try and get myself to read, which I'm doing. But yeah, it's tough to, everything's so fast paced now. It's tough to just sit down and only read and actually pay attention and understand everything. But
like
different things
Christina
work for
can
different people.
Yeah, like my wife, well, Christina, like yeah, you met her.
Yeah. Yeah.
She like I don't know if this is a spouse thing or it's just like you find out that when you marry someone that they are incredible readers and like my wife will like we'll have a chill weekend and she'll be reading something and then like it's like Saturday, well it's like Friday and then Saturday and then Sunday she'll be done with the book and then I realize she read the entire Bible in like a whole weekend. I'm like, how the hell did you read that so fast? I'm like, and she's like, don't say hell. I'm like, shut up. I'm just kidding. I'm just simming off of the Bible joke, but like something like a huge book, and it's just like I don't understand. Like, how do y'all read so fast? I can't even read like I can re- I can read anything, but it's just like I'm so slow at reading. Like you would
Yeah.
think I
Me
could,
too.
I would be a great reader with playing the old Pokemon game so much because I mean you had to read everything,
Yeah.
but
Right. But yeah, it's
but then
different
yeah,
levels of like interactivity and things. And I think for me, video games, it's like my brain, I feel like I always need to be doing something like with my hands. Even now, just talking, it's like my hands are like, drumming on my knees or like, looking for things to do. And I'm just like pedals in front of me. I'm just twisting the knobs and stuff. And so with a game, especially something like Elden Ring or there was this game, Solar Ash, that I played last year that I really loved. Or
I
like
about
games
that.
where you kind of get in a flow state. I just like stop thinking, but then that lets my brain, like there have been so many times when I'm just sitting playing a game and my brain shut off and then I come up with an idea for something. And like that's what it's like some people say like driving or being in the shower or like first thing when they wake up or whatever, like they have those moments. It's like for me, it's when I'm in the zone playing a game and I'm not thinking because it just like frees up my brain to not have to, you know, fiddle with everything and, be,
Yeah.
thinking about all kinds of stuff. And so, um,
I will say this though, I will um I do believe there are games that do not spark creativity. And this is gonna sound like why would this game not? But The Last of Us, that's a game that you'd play for the story.
right.
Like
Yeah.
I played that game like the day it came out and I beat it in a week. And man, I'm having to go through like YouTube videos with the show that's out,
Right.
just to try to jog my memory. And this was 10 years ago, and like I don't think those kind of games are for like creativity, but it's more like
Right.
you're going to be getting a good story. But I don't know.
Yeah. But sometimes just, I think taking a break, whatever the break is, it just can be helpful to come back to, not always be forcing yourself to work on stuff. I think like in the last, couple, like the last 10 years or whatever, everybody's always talking about like always doing stuff and always being productive. And it's like, it's nice to just do nothing. Like, you know, just like really have a break. And so,
There's a book I need to. Okay, I know I talked about like just not reading or anything, but I do read, but just not actively like it's not like I have a stack of books here that oh I want to read these in a little bit. But there's a book out there.
yeah,
I don't. Wait, I think it was you that shared
yeah,
it. It's like,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I read it, a couple months ago. It's called How to Do Nothing. And if you don't want to read the book, I will say, this comedian, Adam Conover, a lot of people know him he had a show on True TV called Adam Ruins Everything. He's got a podcast where he talks with people who wrote books about kind of, like nonfiction stuff about, science and, all kinds of stuff like that. Like just interesting topics. But he interviewed the author of this book. And I listened to that first, and that was really interesting. And then the book's great. But if you're not a reader, I mean, I'm sure there's an audiobook, but that interview on his podcast, the podcast is called Factually. And,
oh,
it,
okay, yeah, I know factually,
I'm
yeah.
sure you could find that episode, and it's good. It's like a good summary of everything. But even that book, it's like her idea of doing nothing is more, like not being productive, and so like she talks a lot about bird watching and how it's like it's not doing anything for the world or, like it's not creating anything. It's not earning her money. It's not, doing
Just
anything like that. But it's something where it's
just letting
like,
them poop on you and stuff.
yeah, she just loves when a bird shits on her. That's her thing. But it's like that's something where she's like thinking about the world and connecting with nature, all kinds of stuff. And you could do that with anything, but it's like her idea of nothing is like not working, not trying to be productive or trying to be creative or whatever. But even sometimes it's not like I was sick recently, just like had a cold, but there was one day when I just literally looked at my phone. Like when I got home from work, I didn't do anything the whole night. And it's like, it's good to, just like actually take a break sometimes. So, yeah, I do recommend the book. It's called How to Do Nothing. And it's, um, somewhat related to all this. But the last thing I'll say on this is, um, Andy Pitcher, who is far better guitar player than I'll ever be. Um, he
I think
he
that's everyone. Everyone says that. Like he
yeah
is, he's like a true like not. It's not even like a god. Like you know how cheesy things that you'd hear like a boomer say like he's a guitar god,
yeah
like something like that. But no, he's um like it's like he created guitar. That's how good he is. Like he with the guitars that he uses, like
yeah
it's incredible. Like I don't know. He's just so incredible and so creative with
yeah.
everything that he does.
It's so amazing. And he moved to back to New York recently. He's initially from here, but um, we've hung out a few times. But the first time that we hung out when he um, was back here, um, we were talking about something. He kind of famously, or I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say famously, but he talks about this a lot. But he plays guitar every single day. He practices every single day and has since he was like a teenager. Um, and he only takes one day off a year, which
Even
is
on
leap
Christmas.
day.
Oh,
No, not even. It's just leap day. So he takes one day off every 4 years and he plays guitar every other day, um, which is really impressive. And I told him I pretty much play guitar once a week. And his jaw was just like dropped. He was so shocked. And so we had this whole conversation about how, it's like I think different things work for everybody and there's a benefit to kind of putting everything in and making it work. And there's a benefit to taking a break and letting it happen when it's gonna happen. And I think everybody's somewhere in between the two. But yeah, it's like he's somebody who gets results by always doing something, always practicing and playing guitar. And it was just so funny. I told him that, there are periods of time um, where, for the last couple months, my girlfriend and I are getting ready to move. And so a lot of times I'm staying at her apartment and my gear is all at my apartment. And so I only play guitar when I'm working on demos, whether it's like preparing for learning a pedal or actually filming. And so that's actually kind of this nice break where I don't have to always be, you know, like have the pressure of needing to work on it. And so it's like just okay, every, whatever Saturday morning or whatever it is when I have the time, that's what I'm going to do. And then I do other things and ideas come to me when I'm doing the other things. Um, and that's been something that works for me.
the way with how Andy goes about that. I mean, he made that into like a not even a habit, but like we wake up in the morning and the first thing that we usually think is, well, of course, using the bathroom, getting ready for the day and all that, but usually it's like breakfast or brunch, and it's like he made that like a part of his everyday life. Like
Right.
it's not like oh yeah, I go for a jog every morning. Like no, not like that. I mean, this is like for him to get by, he has to. It's like a part of his breakfast or something, and it's just man the only thing I can say they can never compare to that was for 735 days straight, I changed a child's diaper, and I mean that's like the only thing I can compare that to. Like that's incredible to me.
Yeah,
And
that's wild.
like being I mean, I'm a bass player at heart and I feel I can I mean I used to play um at least 4 days a week, like in high school, like when I was in middle school till I was like about to graduate. I mean, I played all the time, and but I mean that was just a different time in my life, and it's just I wish I had that drive back then. Now, but it's just then again, I wish I had that time too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just like I'm not saying that Andy has like a lot of time on his hands, but he does. That's just such an incredible thing. Like I, why can't we do that?
Yeah, but
Man,
I think different things work for everybody. And so it's kind of find your thing. And, um, you know, you with just with like sometimes you don't plan on finding what system works for you, but like with you kind of going through, um, having kids and your life changing in that way and, you know, changing what your day job is and, all this stuff, you kind of settled on what makes you make better pedals and what makes you kind of do the best version of deep space, which is amazing.
I'm really happy where it's at now. Like it's like the vision I've wanted, I've had at the beginning, but it's um, I think I this is gonna sound so like Hallmark channel, but I kind of think of my son Luke for all of it because I think he's a lot of the reason why, and my wife too. I mean, she's really mean, but she's very she does. She's not mean.
She is
She
one of
is
the
very.
nicest people I've ever met.
Oh, you don't know. Oh, you don't. I'm just kidding. No, she is. She's very supportive, and they're every bit of the way. Because I mean, there were. It was. I'm gonna be honest. It was very hard. 2018, 2019. Because I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like. I mean, funds were tough. But I mean, getting where things were at now. But I mean, I am thankful for every bit of those years, and all this time because it brings me. Oh, of course, it brings me like meeting you and others
Yeah.
and stuff
Right.
like that, and being involved with this industry and making me grow as a person too, and really seeing what's most important. And like it's different. It's different scenarios for everyone, but at at some at some point you do have to think about yourself and realize that you're just as important as what as others that you try to put your time towards too. But I mean, like focus on yourself always. And I feel like that's been a really big topic throughout. Well, I think it was actually very needed during 2020 because that was. I mean, some people are still having repercussions of the pandemic because I
Right.
mean, you know, I mean, it's just it was tough, and I feel like a lot of people were in a deep low. But man, a lot. Of, I mean, there's I think there's more resources now for like help and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this anymore. But you know where you know where I'm coming from.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's like uh, the perfect place to wrap it up. Yeah, interesting how we started talking about kind of more like broken, like circuit bent, using parts the wrong way, designing of pedals, and ended up talking about kind of just where life takes you and how you find, creativity in everyday things and, how that can kind of shape and almost make things better. Um,
Yeah, I'm
and
sorry
so,
for going so off track.
no, it's amazing. I think it turned out even better because of that. So, yeah, what a great conversation. I hope people, get something from this or, certainly, well, I'm not going to say certainly they'll enjoy it, but I hope they enjoy it. But so, yeah, we'll wrap it up. And then if you're listening to this on the Patreon feed in 2 weeks, we'll have a bonus episode come out. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, then there's a bonus episode out right now if you go support my Patreon. But that's just a shorter talk that's kind of not talking about gear at all. So never any pressure to support the Patreon, but it's what keeps this podcast going and, keeps the channel going and everything like that. So, so thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much, Clint, for joining me and having this great conversation.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I like to talk. So, yeah.
Well, I like to talk to you, so
Yeah.
it works out perfectly. Thank you everyone, and I'll be back with another episode of the podcast next month. So talk to you later. Thanks.